About Finland, I think that they are a good role model in many senses. Especially, I think they already in 2017 had like a national strategy for AI, and then Sweden and Germany and France and Great Britain came in 2018, and they started to do things. But Finland was one of the first, I think, and they also have these kind of new initiatives. I'm sure if you heard about these kind of new big HPC centers in Finland, the Lumi kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's really impressive what they are trying to do.
Yeah.
But given that you have now been in Sweden for, and driving Solita here in Sweden for some time, how would you compare like the level of AI or data readiness in Sweden to Finland?
I think I think there is a kind of let's do a comparison here about kind of the how Finns and Swedes make decisions and how we are. And I have to quote first my fantastic colleague Pekka Ahola, who is working here in Sweden, and he described that in each Finn there lives a little engineer.
Not in Sweden.
Not in Sweden.
He hasn't identified that really yet, but that was a funny description of the kind of the everything tech is really interesting, and engineering is really kind of I have always said that if we would combine these countries, Finland and Sweden is awesome in selling, marketing, describing, and so on. Finns maybe not that much, but they are really good in tech and they are really good engineers. So we have like the front office and the back office. So I think that would be an awesome combination.
So you think it's even down to a culture, grain here, like part of the Finnish gene?
Yes, and I think it comes down to the kind of way of making decisions. Because in Finland, as a manager, you can just make a decision right there and then. And that was also a surprising thing when my colleagues came to Sweden. They were like, "Oh, this meeting went really well. We're ready to sign." I was like, "You have like 6 months ahead of you." It was just an opening meeting, and because in Finland, it is the culture that as a manager, you should be able to make a decision without involving people at that point, and then the implementation happens, and then you start the change management part and kind of convincing
a bit more
people.
Agile in that,
maybe the kind of the whole implementation and the people have accepted the solution is actually as long time period as it's in Sweden. But in Sweden, we include a lot of people in the decision process, which I'm both Swede and a Finn, both nationalities. So I really love that way, because then you kind of have already kind of tested the idea with people before you start implementing, and it's a lot easier. It's a kind of to have the engagement from the beginning, and you also test your own points of view.
Förankra, so you say in Swedish.
Yes. Förankra, and that's kind of the.
We use that word anchoring, but it doesn't even förankra as a Swedish word. Do we have a real English word for that?
I don't know.
It's part of a consensus decision-making culture, that word.
Exactly, yeah. And we were just working actually with the different kind of decision-maker personas.
Fika decision-making, förankra.
Yeah, and we were working with our kind of decision-maker personas to try to understand them. And we have our colleague from Germany running those workshops. And she had like a decision-making process that they have identified, or the kind of buyer's journey mapped out from Germany. Is there something that you would like to change? And we're like, our process is not linear. It goes back and forth, and there is a lot of loops. And hoops. It goes here and there are a lot of people involved. So it's a little bit kind of a different way of approaching, but I think that the discussions have been done now in Sweden. So the kind of the acceleration of cloud and the data platforms and the level of discussion in the enterprises now that we're having is fantastic. So kind of these 2 years, maybe.
A lot happened in 2 years.
Yes, a lot of discussion. And now it's time to act and implement and do. And also kind of the cloud and the solutions have also kind of developed during this time. So we really have a fantastic starting point.
What do you mean the cloud solution have developed? Because I think one core issue that you have, I think in general in the world, is that the big tech giants of the world are the cloud providers, and they are leading with such a big margin that it's almost dangerous for Europe, Sweden, Finland, and a lot of countries. Would you agree with that, or?
Yeah, but that's true, because we have like these giants. We don't have the Alibaba cloud yet, but anyhow, so there is kind of these giants, and I have been really concerned about not having a European cloud. Really a cloud provider, and the kind of what I'm aiming at is maybe the services that are available in the cloud. So there is so much you can do compared, because the
like
development
layers on top the normal
exactly
kind of,
So but it would be nice to have a little bit more competition on the cloud provider side, and we'll see what happens, because it is a little bit scary. I think always when there is just a few big ones steering, so it becomes a little bit spooky.
And now the enterprise is ready to move and go into cloud. Where are they moving? What part of the platform are they now really sinking their teeth in general? Or maybe it's different.
It's very different. We discussed with one very, very large company here, and they were asking how to start their cloud journey and what is our kind of advice. And we have like these 7 steps or 7 different options that we have been trying to kind of generalize and map out. And actually you can start with everything in the same time, depending the use case. And you have to always have the use case. You have to have something that is of value. You can, of course, do a cloud migration and just bump up everything that you have from on-prem to the cloud. It maybe adds some value. Maybe you get some cost savings or so on. It can be a use case in itself, or then it's some kind of a new solution, or then it's some parts of data or whatever. So it's very different approaches that companies take. But it's a kind of what is the most critical thing to do first. But more and more, I think the kind of the discussions are around creating value, either to kind of customers or to the company. And that's kind of getting more and more kind of as a discussion topic, more than just kind of cost saving by moving stuff to cloud.
And who do you talk to when it comes to the cloud journey and doing this? Is it to IT, or is it to is it to a chief data officer, or how does it look like right now? Who's having the conversation?
Yeah, the chief data officer is, of course, our kind of a very close friend. And of course, there is usually kind of an IT department involved in those discussions, but very kind of we have meetings where we have 25 people joining from companies and so on. So there is a lot of kind of and now we are kind of coming into that point that somebody actually owns this topic, because usually it has been kind of some kind of a C-level decision that we will become data-driven, and then there has been somebody who is called business IT who tries to figure this one out, and it's really hard role. But now they kind of gather a forum of different aspects and people around the same table to make the decisions and so on. So that there is a lot of kind of participants.
So is this actually some sort of a critical success factor or prerequisite to do this well? That if you, I mean, like hint. I'm coming from that. If you have an IT department running the cloud journey, it very fast becomes a tech discussion, an infra discussion, and actually the value. What are we going to use it for? What's the use case? In to be a little bit rude, it's not always IT has a clue on what the business value is, cost or data center efficiency. Yes, of course. But in order to drive a new use case, there kind of need to be a use case owner.
Yes, you have to have like a mix of skills and views and so on, and the business and IT need to kind of work together, because if we just do it for the kind of as an IT solution, so you might as well do like a data warehouse on the old SQL server. So
what you highlight now with Swedish type of decision making. Consensus decision making, and in order to basically now do this properly, if you haven't already fixed your organizational mandates, having a boss of it all, it becomes for us. It becomes a team of decision maker for different angles to be able to cope with the mandate, I guess, and cope with the understanding.
Yeah, and it's also kind of our duty in the meetings, if there is kind of IT comes to us and said we need to go to cloud or whatever. So we need to kind of say, okay, but maybe you, to the next meeting you take this person with you and that person. So also to kind of guide from the very beginning how to think, so that we get it right from the beginning, because we want to create impact and positive impact.
So do you actually now think like you have a prerequisite? So when you go into these first meetings, someone comes to you and say, we need to get started. How do we get started? Do you talk about the prerequisites like this then, or?
Yes, absolutely. It's our kind of a theory that you are not going to kind of succeed if you're going to do this only from business view or only from tech view, without kind of the pieces of the puzzle thought out. So it's kind of our approach, and because we have been doing this for such a long time, and we have seen so many customer cases also, and we have made mistakes, and that's where it comes from.